Good evening. Welcome to the meeting of the Skokie Village Board for Monday, April the 5th, 2021. We are assembled here at Skokie Village Hall. Until further notice, meetings of the Skokie Village Board will be held electronically, with a majority of village officials participating via remote access in order to comply with the State of Illinois gubernatorial disaster proclamation. Members of the public who wish to comment as to an item on the published agenda or to comment during public comments must submit their statement or question in writing to the village manager's office, and all properly submitted statements or questions will be presented and read during the relevant portion of the meeting. Written comments must be submitted by email to publiccomments@skokie.org before or during the meetings. By mail to the Village of Skokie, Village Manager's Office, 5127 Oakton Street, Skokie 60077, or via the village's drop box located just outside by the public entry to Village Hall. And with that, we will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Village Clerk Pramod Shah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Roberts.
Here.
Trustee Sutker.
Here.
Trustee Ulrich.
Here.
Trustee Bromberg.
Here.
Trustee Klein.
Here.
Trustee Gray Keeler.
Here.
Mayor Van Dusen.
Here we have a quorum. The next item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda for this evening. Trustee Roberts has asked that B under the village manager's report be taken off the consent agenda. It will be. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda for this evening? Trustee Roberts, seconded by Trustee Gray Keeler. Please call the roll.
Trustee Roberts.
Aye.
Trustee Sutker.
Aye.
Trustee Ulrich.
Aye.
Trustee Bromberg.
Aye.
Trustee Klein.
Aye.
Trustee Gray Keeler.
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye. The motion passes. Before moving on, I want to take a moment. With that vote, the board has approved several infrastructure projects, and I think it bears talking about a member of our staff who is retiring. One of the pillars of Skokie's strength is its transportation network. The work is often done behind the scenes with good planning, financing, and execution. Eric Cook's body of work falls into that category. Eric started with the village on February the 5th, 2001 as a civil engineer. And despite his youthful look, he's been with the village for 20 years, and he's been involved with and responsible for the completion of many of the village's most important community improvements, large and small. I jotted down 13 sort of off the top of my head. I'm not going to list verbally all of them, but do let me point out a few of them because it's a very impressive amount of work that Eric has done for the village. He has overseen the resurfacing of nearly 100 miles of village streets. He oversaw the creation and construction of the village bike trails and multi-use paths, including the Skokie Valley Trail and the Old Orchard multi-use path. He also is innovative and has helped the village launch our Green Alleys program. Many of you might remember the status of Howard Street close to 20 years ago. One of the first projects Eric undertook was the Howard Street Improvement Project, as well as the negotiations with the state for the jurisdictional transfer of Howard Street to the village of Skokie. He was a member of the Dream Team, as we call it, who undertook the design and the construction of the downtown Swift Station and the ancillary improvements at Skokie Boulevard and Searle, including the Illinois Science and Technology Park. Many of you on the north side should be very grateful for Eric's work because of the intersection improvements at Golf and Skokie, as well as Old Orchard and Skokie Boulevard. Being one who travels both Old Orchard and Golf frequently, Eric, I'm particularly grateful for your work. You have saved us an enormous amount of patience. He also developed the Devonshire and Skokie Police Station rain gardens. Eric also has worked on the 8,000 North project, as well as the upcoming hotel development. He also has helped innovate our backyard flooding program, which has saved many residents a lot of ache and pain. Eric's expertise and work has led him to help secure tens of millions of dollars in state and federal funding for village transportation during his 20 years with us. He has been the principal interface with the Illinois Department of Transportation, Region 1. Eric, thank you for everything that you have done. We wish you the very best. And I think Trustee Roberts wanted to add some comments as well. Trustee Roberts?
Thank you, Mayor. Eric, I just wanted to echo what the mayor is saying. You are the consummate professional. You always had a graceful and respectful way of presenting your reports, answering our questions. Many times I know we put you on the hot seat and had to quiz you on a lot of different items, but you came through beautifully, and you were such an excellent employee. You're really a good example of the professional staff that we have in Skokie. So I appreciate all you've done for our residents, and I wish you all the best in retirement. Thank you.
I might add Trustee Karen Gray Keeler has worked on transportation projects in the village and is one of those people who has done consummate work behind the scenes. Trustee Gray Keeler?
Eric, I was biking along Church Street today, and I was thinking we have on the consent agenda about the next step with the Church Street bike lanes. And I was just so grateful what you've done with all the biking that you've added, and thinking you're not going to be here to see us all biking on it, but I'm sure you'll drive down the street at some point. And also, I was in the Forest Preserve over the weekend, and they have new signage up showing the bike lanes, and they showed the Church Street bike lanes, which I thought would be interesting if they were completed before the signs went up. So I just thought that was very forward-thinking. Anyway, thank you so much for all that you've done. It's really been a pleasure working with you.
And I think that is the perfect transition to the next item on the agenda, which is a proclamation thanking the Active Transportation Alliance. And I'd like to take a moment to read the proclamation and then introduce a couple people with whom we have worked. Whereas the village of Skokie is a transit-friendly village that has also offered great biking, a la Trustee Gray Keeler, as well as Trustee Roberts, I might point out, and walking infrastructure, as well as an accessible multimodal public transportation regional network. And whereas the village of Skokie has developed and is implementing a complete streets policy and bike plan. And whereas Active Transportation Alliance, has provided technical assistance to the village of Skokie to develop a complete streets policy, a complete streets demonstration project on Lawler Avenue, and a walk audit in downtown Skokie. And whereas the mission of the Active Transportation Alliance is to advocate for walking, bicycling, and public transit to create healthy, sustainable, and equitable communities. And whereas Active Transportation Alliance is celebrating its 35th anniversary in 2021 and commemorating progress made for walking, biking, and public transit in Chicago. Whereas Skokie is one of the community leaders working with the Active Transportation Alliance to advance this work. Now therefore I, George Van Duzen, Mayor of the Village of Skokie, do hereby proclaim my and the village's support and extend our very best wishes to Active Transportation Alliance on its 35th year. Carrie Haberstich of the village staff, who is on vacation this week, has worked with the Transportation Alliance very closely, and Trustee Gray Keeler was on the Complete Streets Committee, if I recall correctly. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Peggy Raines, the president of the Alliance, and I believe Heather Shady is also with us this evening. So please, Peggy, Heather.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Van Duzen. On behalf of the Active Transportation Alliance, let me express our sincere appreciation for this recognition. When Active Trans was founded 35 years ago as the Chicagoland Bicycle Federation, our region had no bicycle infrastructure, no community bicycle and pedestrian plans, no complete street policies, and little dedicated funding for bicycle and pedestrian improvements. With local advocates and volunteers and community partners like Skokie, Active Trans has worked for more accessible walking, biking, and public transit to create healthy, sustainable, and equitable communities. Our organization values its partnership with the village. We were pleased to provide technical assistance on complete streets policy development and implementation strategies. Let me say, as a former resident of the village and now neighbor who continues to shop, dine, and worship in Skokie, I'm thrilled to see the progress in our region. And as a representative of Active Trans, let me say we are excited to see how the policies and plans we have worked on together will shape this community and the region over the next 35 years. Thank you again for this distinct honor. It really is a privilege to live in this area and be part of all of this great growth that we see in active transportation. And I just want to say personally, thank you again.
Thank you, and Heather, thank you. I know of the hard work that you've put in with Carrie over these many years, so thank you very much as well.
Yes, thank you. It's been a pleasure working with the village, and also we worked with Eric as well, so that could be added to the list of many things that you did with the village over the years.
We'll make that number 14 on the list. Trustee Gray Keeler.
touting biking again. One of the sessions I went to, can't remember the gentleman's name who led it. He came from somewhere else in the country. I think it was at the Botanic Garden. He was showing pictures from around the country of good things that communities have done, and it's really quite exciting when he showed several pictures of going, wait, that's Skokie. And one of the ones was at the Oakton Street station with the covered bike parking. So I want to mention that has made the list of things that are going around. Another thing with the biking, I was with one of our new business owners over the weekend, and he was installing his third bike rack. And he was just saying how every time he puts in a new bike rack, it completely fills up. So it was a pleasure working with you, Heather and Eric and Carrie, on all of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And keep shopping in Skokie. Next, we have an award presentation by our Fire Chief Hofleck. Also, Captain Tom Duran is with us. Chief?
Mr. Lockerbie, Mr. Lorge, thank you for letting us have this time tonight to make this presentation to one of our fine, outstanding manufacturing facilities here in Skokie, Amaral, Beltec, and Megadyne. We want to recognize them for their fire prevention that they've practiced in their business. It's really contributing to our community. With me also is Deputy Chief Nick Eschner and Captain Tom Duran. Before we do the presentation, I would like to show the video of the fire that occurred. It's well captured.
Chief, hold on.
So as you can watch, the fire will occur up in this machine over here. I think they call it an IR oven. While you're watching, I want to point out how clean the facility is. The good housekeeping really made this, you can see how the fire's quickly growing. Their staff quickly became aware of it, and with some well-placed fire extinguishers, they were able to go to work and contain that fire to that machine. Their staff did an amazing job of putting out the fire quickly and safely, shutting down the equipment as well, so that it would, the fire would stay out. You notice how they grabbed additional fire extinguishers, and of course they still called 911 to make sure that if there was anything else that we would be there quickly. But the good housekeeping is also important to note, because there wasn't other combustibles around the machinery. Had that fire extended to other combustibles, it could have easily gotten out of control rapidly. Thank you. So we want to give this presentation. Today we have plant manager and safety manager, or plant engineer and safety manager from Amaral, Beltec, and Megadyne. I'll read the plaque, so give me a moment. The Village of Skokie and Skokie Fire Department presents this commendation in recognition of the fire prevention and preparedness practices implemented by the staff of Amaral, Beltec, and Megadyne to ensure the well-being of employees and preservation of property. We acclaim the actions of Amaral, Beltec, and Megadyne employees for their quick recognition and response to a fire in the facility located at 7501 North St. Louis Avenue in Skokie. On February 19th, 2021, an equipment fire was safely extinguished by the swift and efficient engagement of Tan Sang, Ben Regaldo, Ted Schaefer, and Noli Palma. their readiness and effective use of a fire extinguisher significantly reduced the potential life safety risk and property damage. Mr. Leitner, I'd like to congratulate you and thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much.
Would you like to say the words?
Sure.
Congratulations.
First of all, Chief, Mayor, everybody else, trustees, thank you for having me here. I am the safety manager for Amarillo Beltec in Skokie. It's quite an honor to be here. I don't want to really steal the thunder of the gentlemen who really were the heroes of the day for us. I know, Chief, you'll be out tomorrow morning to speak with them directly. But appreciate the recognition that you've given us, your quick response to come out to help with us to evaluate the situation afterwards so that we can learn and continue to grow. So thank you.
Sure. Sure. He knows. Front and center. Sorry. Yeah, is the cancer gonna get her smiles?
Need to look at the creases in the eyes. Thank you.
Chief? Thank you. For the plan? Okay. Next item on the agenda is report of our village manager, John Lockerbie.
Thank you, Mayor Van Duzen and Village Board. Good evening, everyone. Item A is regarding a COVID-19 update. Mike Charlie, our Director of Health and Human Services, will be providing the update with the most current information this evening. And before he gets started, I would like to call attention to the proclamation that was approved earlier in tonight's meeting regarding Public Health Week. As we all know, there have been a number of professionals and volunteers that have battled COVID and continue to administer the vaccine, which is very important. And so tonight, and in honor of the Public Health Week, we wanted to acknowledge the Health and Human Services staff and the many volunteers, including the Medical Reserve Corps and many others, that have really assisted the village. And so thank you to all of those individuals that have been instrumental in our COVID efforts. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Mike Charlie.
Thanks, John, and good evening to the village board and Mayor Van Dusen. And John, that was a perfect lead-in because you provided us enough time to get the presentation up, so I appreciate it. You're an expert, I know, you've done this long enough. So yeah, tonight I'm going to provide an update on some COVID-19 data. I am going to go over some CDC interim public health guidance for fully vaccinated people. I'm just going to expound on what I communicated last time I was here. I'm going to talk a little bit about variants, and I'm going to talk about vaccine updates in regards to the Village of Skokie's vaccination efforts and provide some data and information on that. So the data that I have is updated through late last week. The total cases in Skokie is now at 5,832 cases. And like always, I have some charts on the following pages that'll provide you more of a pictorial and a history of the cases in Skokie, with 121 total deaths. I don't know if this is bad news, but certainly around the state and also in Skokie, we've seen a slight increase in our 7-day moving average. We're up at 10.5 cases a day, which was higher than the last time I was here. In addition, our positivity rate has jumped slightly. I think last time I was here, we were right around about 2.5, 2.7%. The positivity rate has jumped around the state, and also as a former reference, I'm providing the positivity rate for Cook County, which is slightly higher and pretty much has always been slightly higher since I arrived back in November. compared to our numbers. These are just two charts. If you look at the top chart, it's the 7-day rolling average for Skokie since about March 7th. So you can see we've went from slightly over 2% positivity to where we're at now. In addition, on the bottom, the data, by the way, both these data sets are available, one on the village webpage, which is on top, and on the bottom here is Region 10, which is the Cook region. You can visit the State of Illinois Department of Public Health webpage and search data by region. And you can kind of see the slight increase both not only in Cook County or in the Cook region, not including Chicago, and Skokie in our positivity rates. On this next page, I provided this data the last time I was presenting also, that on the top is Skokie's number of cases per day, and then that orange kind of squiggly line is a 7-day moving average with cases, and the bottom is the state's chart. So again, eerily similar data. If you look at the top and the bottom, it's almost a mirror image, which is crazy, but pretty much we're not an island. You know, people can come and go as they please from Skokie. People that work in Skokie or live in Skokie work outside Skokie. People who live outside Skokie work in Skokie. So there are no borders. So COVID is spreading and transmitting around the state and in Skokie very similarly. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some CDC interim public health guidance, just expound upon what I had mentioned the last time I was here. But new to the CDC guidance is that anybody who's been vaccinated, previously the recommendations for those that were traveling is that if you're going to travel, you test within 72 hours of travel. I know there are certain countries that still require that if you're traveling internationally, but if you're traveling domestic, at least the CDC is no longer recommending that if you're vaccinated, you still have to mask and you still have to take precautions, but they're not recommending anymore to test 3 days prior to travel, and they're not recommending that you quarantine after travel if you're vaccinated. If you're not vaccinated, you know, they're still recommending that you test 1 to 3 days before travel and quarantine after travel. Although it's never been a requirement here in Skokie, the county of Cook has recommended it, and the city of Chicago does have some requirements for travel still that pretty much mirror the CDC guidance. I went over this last time I was here, but I thought it would be worth mentioning again for maybe those in the public that hadn't seen my presentation, is that the CDC recently, I would say within the last 3 weeks, came out with this interim guidance for fully vaccinated individuals saying that fully vaccinated people can visit other families. If your family and another family, or if you were vaccinated and you were visiting another family, you don't have to mask. It's only when you have multiple families that are meeting in larger groups. Even if there's vaccinated individuals, they still recommend masking. They do recommend that people meet outdoors, but they feel like it's very low risk now with people who are vaccinated. We're still doing contact tracing, and I did want to mention this, and it's not in my presentation necessarily, but you know, we contact trace on every Skokie resident that tests positive. So when cases come to us, we reach out to the person who's ill or sick, or that tested positive if they're asymptomatic, and we ensure that not only they isolate, but we also reach out to the close contacts to ask them to quarantine. But one of the things we're not observing is vaccinated individuals, fully vaccinated individuals testing positive. Pretty much every single case has been people that are not vaccinated. So for everybody out there that is not vaccinated or doesn't trust it or isn't really sure yet, the statistics and the data don't lie. Vaccination is very important, and that's what we're seeing locally, where we just don't see people who are vaccinated getting the disease. And I'm not saying it's not happening. There's still a small risk. We've had people that have had the single dose test positive, but not both doses in the 14 days after to date. Couple more interim recommendations is, you still have to wear a mask in public. You still have to practice social distancing around unvaccinated people in public. In general, if you go to Costco, Jewel, the stores, you can't wear, again, you can't not wear a mask. You still have to do that. So I want to talk a little bit about variants. I got to be honest with you, I'm not a lab scientist. So I don't think I know as much about variants as if you had someone from like the Illinois State Lab come in, but I did want to go over what they are. So a variant is a mutation in the COVID-19 virus genome that alters the virus's characteristics and causes the virus to act differently. I mean, this happens with different viruses all the time. That's why every year there's a different flu vaccine, because they have a best guess as to what variant of the flu virus is going to be most active, and that's how they produce the flu vaccine. So how does the Illinois Department of Public Health test for variants? Well, I'm going to be providing some data on the next couple slides, and it's important to note that not every single test they do they test for variants. What they do is IDPH asks that Illinois hospitals and commercial labs enroll to participate in the Illinois Variant Surveillance Program. And then what they ask is that the labs are asked to send 10 randomly chosen SARS-CoV-2 positive samples weekly to IDPH for genomics sequencing. So it's, like I said, it's not every sample. So some of the data you may see saying there's this many positives that are this variant or that variant. It's not every sample, and that's important to note when you're looking at the numbers. The Centers for Disease Control have identified variants of concern. These variants of concern have evidence of increased transmissibility compared to the original COVID virus, produce more severe disease, increased hospitalization or death, significant reduction in neutralization by antibodies generated during previous infection or vaccination, so they're just maybe less likely to be prevented from vaccine, and or reduced effectiveness of treatments or vaccines. An example is the B117 variant. Its known attributes include approximately 50% increased transmission. And that's why the state, on the state call this morning, they suspect part of the reason why we've seen an increase in the number of cases is, although we're vaccinating people, these variants can transmit much quicker, much easier. Also, there's a likely increased severity of disease, but it has minimal impact on monoclonal antibody therapeutics, meaning that monoclonal therapy is, if you do get the virus, then it's a therapy you go through to lessen the symptoms and reduce your chance of becoming severely sick or hospitalized. There are 5 current variants of concern in the United States. There's the B117, which was first identified in 2020 in the UK. The B1351, which is the South African one. The P1, which is the one that was identified in travelers from Brazil. And then there's the B1427 and B1429 are the 2 variants first identified in California. This is just some data that the top one and the bottom one, the bottom map, are both from the Centers for Disease Control website. As you can see, the B117 variant, that's the one originally found in the UK. There's 12,505 cases in the United States. And as of this morning, there were 388 cases in Illinois. Now, I don't know if there's anybody checking my data, but if you went to the CDC website, the Illinois numbers are going to be different because Illinois is more up to date. But there's only 3 cases of the B1351 in Illinois, and there's 59 cases of the P1. So we know that when they do test for these variants, the state has notified us that one Skokie resident has tested positive with the P1 variant. So it's one of the 59 Illinois cases. The bottom is just a map showing that pretty much everywhere, what is that, Oklahoma? Hope I don't get my geography wrong. Has cases of the B117 variant, so it's spread throughout the country pretty well at this point. In Skokie, we've had, like I said, we've had the one one resident with the P1 from Brazil. You may ask, well, did this person travel to Brazil, or where did they get it? Well, we don't know yet, because this person is actually hospitalized, and we've been unable to reach this person because they've actually been very sick. The CDC is monitoring these variants with the help from the Illinois Department of Public Health. And the good news is according to Dr. Fauci, at this point, preliminary data shows that the COVID-19 vaccines currently available in the United States should provide an adequate degree of protection against those variants. Now, I've read different things over the last day or so that, some of the, like AstraZeneca, isn't proving to do as well against some of the variants and other things. But I think the number of the data they have is so small right now. I think only time will tell whether or not the vaccines we have will protect from them. But so far, so good, which is good news for everybody. Again, another reason to get vaccinated. I will mention that Moderna and Pfizer are working on boosters, or working on vaccines that will work on the different variants, and only time will tell whether or not they get EUA approval and whether or not we'll ever need to use them. So if residents have any question about COVID-19, again, you can visit our webpage. It's a wealth of information. You can subscribe to Skokie News by visiting the Skokie's website. You can call the COVID-19 hotline. Operators are on hand and ready between 8:30 and 5 Monday through Friday. You can email us at covid19@skokie.org. And anybody that's interested in getting vaccinated, please register. We are through the A's, we're through the 1A's, we're through the 1B's, we're through the 1B pluses. We are working on the final phase. So anybody that's registered, the last, I would say maybe 10, 11,000 people, we're working on. So we're humming through the people, and some of the data I'll provide to you kind of show where we're at. So again, we've delivered about 3,750 doses to North Shore, that Pfizer vaccine. 400 doses were delivered to St. Francis Hospital for healthcare workers. We also have transferred about 500 doses of Moderna to our federally qualified health centers, which is really important because, again, those are the facilities that are helping those less fortunate and vulnerable. To date, we've administered 16,581 doses, about 10,800 first doses, and 5,444 second doses, and which you can't, at least I can't see it. But we are administering doses as soon as we receive them. So how about Johnson & Johnson? I had a lady call me today, and she was mad at me because we didn't have any Johnson & Johnson. I said, actually, we do. We received 400 doses of Johnson & Johnson last week. We have been requesting. We've requested Moderna, we've requested Pfizer, we've requested Johnson & Johnson. Every week we request it, and we only get what we get. The state allocates vaccine based on many different reasons, but we plan on using the Johnson & Johnson for our homebound residents. We've started collecting information, and we're going to start administering it directly to people. People that are interested in being vaccinated, if you're truly homebound, which means you need the assistance to get anywhere. People who can get to our clinic and get vaccinated with the help of one other person. Wheelchair accessible facility accessible if you're on a walker. Please come to our clinic. It's the most efficient way for us to administer vaccine, but you can call the village, and we will put you on a wait list, and we plan on getting out to the homebound residents very soon. We also plan on having a one-day Johnson & Johnson vaccine clinic the week of April 20th. So more to follow on that. We will be sending out invites within the next about week to week and a half for that clinic for those people that might be interested in that. This is really good data. So, and I'm really happy that we're at where we're at. So, once a week I get a report from the state of Illinois, from the Illinois Department of Public Health, which provides all our vaccine data for all of our zip codes. And to date, 28,449 residents have received at least one dose. 84% of our seniors, 65 and older have received at least one dose. 58% of our residents 18 and over have received a first dose, and then 45% of our total population has received at least one dose. And with that, that's my presentation for tonight, and I can certainly answer any of the trustees' questions.
Trustee Sutker and then Trustee Ulrich.
Thank you, Mike, for all the work you've done. I have a question about that random testing for the variants. If they're only random testing variants, then how can they really know how many are in Skokie? You know, they said that we have one, but they're not testing all the positives for the variants. Did I understand you correctly?
Yeah, you did, and that's why I wanted to make it abundantly clear that when you look at the numbers, I mean, it could be higher than we're seeing. It's just that with the resources they have to test the different variants and genomes, I think that they just have a certain capacity. That's why they're only asking for a set number of randomly selected samples.
I also heard that the Johnson & Johnson, part of its reason for the lower efficacy is because of the variants, that they had a larger pool of people that they studied. Is that also what you understand?
Yeah, when they did their testing and their analysis on it, it was a different time period, right? I mean, back when Pfizer and Moderna were doing their testing on their products, there were no variants, or not any known variants, not like it was when Johnson & Johnson tested. So yeah, it's like comparing apples to oranges, and we don't really know whether Pfizer or Moderna would have had as high a efficacy against the virus.
Trustee Ulrich?
Hi, Mike. Thanks. So my question is, how long do the vaccines report to last? So is it going to be like a flu, or do you even know? I mean, if it's going to be every year, I've heard comments that it may last for only 6 months to a year. And what is, if you already answered this, I apologize, but do the vaccines protect against the variants on an equal basis, like Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, for instance?
Yeah, so to answer the first question, only time will tell. I don't think they know yet. I think that so far what's been shown is that they've been highly effective, and I haven't seen any studies showing that they've waned in regards to efficacy yet. So only time will tell. I'm sure if the efficacy wanes, then yeah, I think that they'll be prepared with a booster, and I think they're considering that right now. But I haven't heard anything from the state, Trustee Ulrich, to provide you anything else other than that for that. And what was your second question? I'm sorry.
About variants and how efficacious the vaccines are.
So I tried to do a little bit of research actually this morning on this, and outside of Dr. Fauci saying that they're all effective at this point, I don't think there has been a really conclusive study with any of the vaccines to really provide us sufficient information to tell us whether or not one's going to actually work better than the other than I know AstraZeneca showed that it worked less for one of the variants, but I can't recall which one, than the Pfizer and Moderna. But outside of that, I just think it's in its infancy. I just don't think they have enough data to really say.
Thank you.
Trustee Roberts?
Good evening, Mike, and thank you and your staff for all your work. Could you just talk a little bit more about what you see for the next month for Skokie residents? It seems to me that this is really good news in terms of the amount of people that are getting first and second doses. And I know now that Skokie residents it's opened up for the county as well as people at Walgreens, CVS, et cetera. So could you give us some estimate? You think, are you going to get through be able to offer appointments to everyone on the list by a certain date, or what would you see the next 4 to 6 weeks?
That's a great question. So I will say that one thing, that the demand for a vaccine has gone down quite a bit over the last, I'd say, 3 to 4 weeks. I think the state, the way they rolled out the vaccine campaign is that they've more than equally distributed the vaccine now to providers and pharmacies, where what we're observing is that we had a lot of people on our pre-registration list that have, when we're starting to invite people, we're finding out that they've already had the vaccine. I think if you look at the numbers, I think we've vaccinated a little over 10,000 first doses, and I think there's almost 30,000 total doses administered, first doses in Skokie. So if you look at it, 2/3 of the doses are actually being administered outside the health department, which is great, because in the beginning it was almost all us. And I think they've redistributed the wealth. So over the next couple of weeks, this week we have 2 first dose clinics where we'll administer about 1,600 doses. And then, so I think it's going to be at least, I would say, probably about 6 to 8 weeks till we can get to everybody on the list, unless people continue to register, of course. And that, of course, doesn't include anybody under the age of 18 at this point, because we don't have the Pfizer in-house, although we are working with a provider to help us with that, to administer Skokie residents, which we don't have a ton on our registration list, to be honest, 16 to 17-year-olds. So it's going to be at least, I would say, 6 to 8 weeks till we can get to everybody.
Okay. Thank you.
Trustee Klein.
Hello again, Mike. How are you?
Good evening.
Got a quick question. You said at the end of April you were going to be having a Johnson & Johnson clinic. Have we been guaranteed then a later delivery of Johnson & Johnson vaccine? Or are you talking about what we have on hand?
Yeah, so we have 400 doses on hand. We're going to get 500 more doses this week. And then we're projected to get 100 doses the next 2 weeks after that. So we're going to refrain from we're going to have a 3-hour Johnson & Johnson clinic, I believe, and so that we ensure we have sufficient supply to make sure that we can get it to our homebound residents.
Are people requesting the Johnson & Johnson?
No, I mean, anecdotally, there's a handful of individuals who have called in and asked for it.
But not an overwhelming number?
No, I think people are just happy to get vaccinated, and I don't think most people don't have a preference. At least that's, I haven't polled people, but I think we've got a really good response rate with Moderna and Pfizer, and I can't recall really anybody except the person I spoke to this morning that was insistent that she get Johnson & Johnson, but she was a very nice lady. If she's listening, she was very nice, by the way. She just wanted the Johnson & Johnson, but I was able to help her out and tell her I'd make sure I get her an appointment, so.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
And,
thank you, guys.
I do want to reiterate the job that you and everybody in the health department has done. You've mobilized successfully across the village itself. All village departments have been participating. The Skokie Public Library, the Skokie Park District, community volunteers, the Oakton Community College nursing students, our celebrated Medical Reserve Corps, the number of people that you have vaccinated, first responders, teachers, daycare workers, long-term care workers, healthcare professionals. The list goes on. Just our congratulations and our deep gratitude to you
Yeah.
and everybody in the department.
Well, we appreciate that, and it's really been a team effort. I mean, you're thinking the health department, but it's everybody it's all hands on deck. So I think that John and the village manager's office has done a great job mobilizing everyone with, helping assist with that too, so appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, yeah.
Item B is regarding a 115 trust agreement to manage the retirement healthcare funding plan for collective bargaining employees. The collective bargaining agreement with the Fraternal Order of Police, or FOP, Lodge 68, includes a provision for FOP members to participate in a retiree healthcare savings, or an RHS plan. This is similar to the post-employment health plan in place for our fire personnel. Employees contribute 1% of their salary. The new 115 trust would cover both International Association of Firefighters, IAFF, and the police, the FOP participants going forward, but could also accommodate any other participants in the future should the village implement additional programs. I concur with the recommendation of our administrator and finance director. Julian Prindy is with us this evening. Mayor and board approval of the resolution authorizing the village to create a 115 trust agreement to manage the retirement healthcare funding plan for collective bargaining employees is respectfully requested.
A motion is in order. Trustee Ulrich, seconded by Trustee Klein. Trustee Roberts had a question, I believe.
Hi, Julian. This is the first time I've encountered these plans, and I just wondered, I'm not familiar with how they work. Could you just briefly, so our firefighters previously and now our police officers, how does this plan affect their retirement? And could you just kind of walk us through how this plan works, please?
Yes, sir. So this, the plan is in essence intended to be a supplemental funding source for retirees' health expenses. In essence, the participants in the collective bargaining unit have to agree to these terms. They sort of all have to agree. They get some opt-out options at the very beginning once the plan is implemented. Once the plan is in place, everybody participates mandatorily. They can't opt out after the initial opt-in. They commit to funding the plan by putting aside, I think right now, both fire and police contracts call for 1% of their salary. We deduct it on a biweekly basis and then deposit it on their behalf in what will be a Section 115 trust. The money grows tax-free, and then if deducted for eligible medical expenses, it can be also used without any tax penalties or consequences. The request before the board is to convert what we have in place, which is a IRS Section 501C9 plan, which is called as a VEBA plan, to convert that into a Section 115 trust. And the only, I'm no tax attorney, and I did try to read up the IRS code, the difference between those two, but the only thing I can come up with from just reading is that the Section 115 trust allows participants to transfer benefits if they were to pass away while receiving benefits. It allows a non-tax dependent to become the beneficiary, whereas the VEBA plan, the current plan that we have, allows only tax dependents to be the beneficiaries of funds in their plan. But the gist is that there's really no employer village monies that goes into these plans. It is all contributions from the firefighters and the police officers. It grows tax-free, and for someone who starts in fresh, can accumulate quite a balance by the time they retire. They can use toward medical premiums, deductibles, any medical expense that the IRS deems qualifies.
So, Julian, who chooses? So it's the trustees, administrators are State Street Bank and this Babbitt. Are they chosen by the unions or by the village, or is it a joint choice, or how is that set up?
It is it is somewhat a joint choice in the sense that the collective bargaining units select the plan administrator. In this case, both the firefighters and the police officers have chosen IPPFA as their preferred plan. And IPPFA contracts with BMI, which is the administrator of the plan. And in turn, they contract with State Street and Transamerica, who manage, who are the custodials essentially of the funds, who receive the funds, invest them, and keep them in custody for the retirees. I do believe there's some provisions for, changing trustees and administrators. As is, the village has had no reason to look for others. These are, again, we don't pay the trustees and we don't pay the administrator. They sort of charge the fund, and that's where their compensation comes from. But yes, we could look for others, but we just haven't had no reason to, because these entities work so well together. They created the plan together.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Ulrich?
So in effect, Julian, the benefit of this plan centers around the emancipated family members, is that correct? And being able to receive the benefits, benefiting the police department and the fire department members, yes?
That's the difference between the Section 115 trust and the 501c9, which we have in place right now, is that there's a provision for non-tax dependent beneficiaries in the 115 trust. The funds as they are can be used by the participant, their families, whoever is eligible to receive medical care costs or eligible medical expenses. If you have a family coverage, for example, and you are a retiree drawing on this plan, you can make use of those funds for your medical expenses as long as they're tax dependent. In the 115 trust, you don't have to be a tax dependent to be able to take advantage of the benefits.
So as an employee with the fire department and the police department, this would benefit them. Basically, it's a good thing for those people, yes?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
We're only doing this for their benefit, yes.
Good to know.
Makes no
Okay.
difference to us, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Julian. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Roberts,
Aye?
Trustee Sutker,
Aye.
Trustee Ulrich,
Aye.
Trustee Bromberg,
Aye.
Trustee Klein,
Aye.
Trustee Gray Keeler,
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye, the motion passes.
Items C, D, E, F, and G were approved as part of the consent agenda this evening, and that completes my report.
Thank you. Next item is the lengthy report of our Corporation Counsel, Michael Lorch.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. Good evening, everyone. I have a request tonight for executive session in accordance with paragraph 2C11 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act pertaining to the review and discussion of pending litigation. I'd ask for board action.
A motion is in order. Trustee Bromberg, seconded by Trustee Sutker. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Roberts,
Aye?
Trustee Sutker,
Aye.
Trustee Ulrich, Trustee Ulrich,
Aye.
Trustee Bromberg,
Aye.
Trustee Klein,
Aye.
Trustee Gray Keeler,
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye, the motion passes.
Thank you, Mayor. That would conclude my report for this evening.
Thank you. This evening, we have two Plan Commission cases that are related. Our chairman, Paul Luke, is unable to be with us, so Matt Brandmeier will do the honors this evening. Matt?
Hello,
Good
everyone.
evening.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce two Plan Commission cases for 3900 Dempster Street. That's Dunkin' Donuts. They're both special use permits. One is for a limited service restaurant with a drive-through, and the other one is involves outdoor dining. So it's at the March 18th, 2021 Plan Commission meeting, the commission heard both of these cases. The proposal is essentially to remove the existing building and replace it with a newer, more efficient one. Overall, according to the report, the plan increases the efficiency of the parking and traffic circulation. It increases parking, provides an outdoor dining area, and it significantly upgrades the landscaping. It also replaces the aging structure with a more modern one, and continues the trend of new investment along Dempster Avenue. There was no relief required for the proposals, and the Plan Commission recommended unanimously with a 9-0 vote for approval. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? We'll have two motions. Trustee Klein.
Yes, Matt. Is reading the material, it seems to me that the only thing about the imprint of the building is it's moving north. So which is going to bring the drive-through, let's say, nearer to the residential behind on the north side of the shopping center. So the only thing I really wanted to ask is if we can make sure that that fence that I looked at today can be reinforced or redone. So, because that is the barrier between the drive-through and the residents. So that's what I would ask, please.
Yes, okay. Are you asking a question or is that a request?
That's like a request.
Okay.
In the form of a question.
We'll see to it.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The first motion would be to concur with the recommendation of the Plan Commission on case 2021-06P, special use permit for 3900 Dempster Street, limited service restaurant with drive-through. A motion is in order. Trustee Gray-Keeler, seconded by Trustee Bromberg. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Roberts,
Aye.
Trustee Sutker,
Aye.
Trustee Ulrich,
Aye.
Trustee Bromberg,
Aye.
Trustee Klein,
Aye.
Trustee Gray-Keeler,
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye. The motion passes. The second motion would be to concur with in the Plan Commission case 2021-07P, special use permit 3900 Dempster, outdoor dining. Motion is in order. Trustee Ulrich, seconded by Trustee Sutker. Call the...
Trustee Roberts,
Aye.
Trustee Sutker,
Aye.
Trustee Ulrich,
Aye.
Trustee Bromberg,
Aye.
Trustee Klein,
Aye.
Trustee Gray-Keeler,
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye. The motion passes. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The concluding item this evening is public comment. John?
As we approach Election Day in Skokie to choose our leaders for the next cycle, I want to share my hopes for Skokie's future. As a longtime resident of Skokie, I feel Skokie was an amazing place to grow up, and I believe it still is an excellent place to live. I often hear people say, Skokie's not the same, to which I say, what town is the same? Change is the only constant. Change is necessary for growth. I would hope Skokie remains the same welcoming community that I have known while changing with the times. This means making sure there is adequate affordable housing for anyone that wishes to live in this very diverse community, including people from all backgrounds, regardless of nationality, race, religion, gender, identity, economic status, or any of the categories that define us. It means making sure we aggressively pursue our sustainability goals and plans to protect the planet for us, our children, and future generations. These goals and all of Skokie's other goals and plans for continuing to thrive and be the inviting community it is start with the leadership. Skokie's government works well because we have had leaders that care about Skokie and its residents. However, a one-party system, the concentration of power can be very precarious, destructive to democracy, and potentially lead to corruption. We want better for Skokie. There needs to be a combination of independent individuals leading Skokie, ensuring transparency, open and healthy dialogue, and that voices of constituents are heard. Thank you for your service and helping to make Skokie the wonderful place it is. Leslie Nathan, 7700 Block, Kedville. Skokie is a well-run village for the most part. The trustees have focused on economic development, and that's good. However, luxury condos and apartments don't help most of this diverse community. Skokie is perhaps more affordable than neighboring communities, but it still needs more affordable housing. After volunteering with 2 refugee families and being on a ride-along with the Skokie Police Department, I have seen what poor conditions some landlords offer. You can't rely on the market. In Evanston and Chicago, there are many new, wonderful, affordable housing projects that have gone up, some for seniors. Yes, Skokie has the Gallets and HACC housing, but there are long wait lists. We need more affordable housing for all who need it to keep Skokie a wonderful, diverse community. Take a look at Evergreen Real Estate Services for one. They do great work in developing, building, and managing affordable housing. New ideas need to be brought to Skokie. Please look into this and don't be one of those not in my backyard governments. Judy Mendel, 24 Williamsburg Terrace, Evanston, Illinois. 60203. Dear Mayor Van Duzen and trustees, People for a Safer Society wants to thank you for your resolution of March 1st, 2021, asking the legislature in Springfield to support SB 568 and HB 3245, Senate bill and House bill. We know that this important piece of legislation requiring stronger laws around the firearm owner identification system, or FOID, will make Illinois citizens safer. We appreciate your leadership on this important matter. Sincerely, Laura Williams, President, People for a Safer Society. 1978, neo-Nazis tried to march in Skokie, and the mayor and community spoke out against it, and it was stopped. In 1999, Ricky Birdsong, a black Skokie resident, was murdered by white supremacists in Skokie. Only Evanston residents acknowledged this hate crime to a black man. In 2017, Skokie Cares was founded to become a more welcoming community and have SEED anti-racist training. In 2021, Skokie elected officials created hate-filled, embarrassingly uncontested campaigns and elections that only created hate in person and on social media. Skokie Mayor and trustees, I am begging you to create more in-person dialogues that are in multiple languages, talk about difficult issues, increase funding for social workers to help talk about trauma, and model how to constructively deal with conflict. Please engage more than 5% of the voters and identify leadership for future contested elections. Skokie's education system and unapologetic diversity is its strength. All of the solutions are right here in our community. Please let's amplify all voices in 80 different languages and not stay silent. Elena Jacobs, Skokie resident. To the village board, on this eve of Election Day, I'm writing to share my hopes for Skokie's future. I hope that we will see increased democratic engagement through contested elections and higher voter turnout. I hope to see our commitment to sustainability lead to bold action that will ensure our children have a safe place to live in the future. I hope to see policing reimagined and alternative response teams put into place. I hope to see mutual aid become the foundation of a village where we take care of each other. I hope to see affordable housing prioritized so that we do not displace and lose many of our valued neighbors. And I hope our amazing diversity, which we celebrate on signs and through festivals, is matched by a commitment to equity and anti-racism that can hold the complexities of our many identities and cultures so that everyone truly does feel safe and welcome here. Thank you, Maggie Vandermeer. On the eve of Election Day here in Skokie, it is definitely time our town starts to really think about change that will help all community members out for all the right reasons. First and foremost, there should be talk about independent, nonpartisan elections by the year 2025. Slates are not the way to go, as we've seen how that can negatively impact elections. Other things that I feel that are super important are climate action and sustainability, fair and affordable housing, and police reform. All of these things are things that need to be attended to for our community to truly welcome everyone. So my hope is that with the new trustees that are coming in, there is talk to really make some change in all these categories to make Skokie an even better place to live, raise a family, and ensure all community members can be proud to be a part of its community. Thanks for your time, Nicole Reynolds. There were 3 additional citizen comments or public comments regarding political endorsement. These comments will not be read as part of the village board meeting. Political activity, commonly known as campaigning, is not business conducted at village board meetings. That completes the public comments this evening.
Thank you. We have an executive session. Trustee Bromberg and Trustee Roberts.
Motion to adjourn to executive session.
We're adjourned to executive session.